Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win, you find a way to lose, and in this boxing community, the more time I spend in it, the more I realize there are people who don't know ish about boxing. Classic Roger Mayweather. Now let me tell you something. If a person wanted to pick against Terence Crawford, or pick against any fighter, and they can explain why, intelligently explain why they would pick Crawford to win or Earl Spence to win, then it's okay because we don't have crystal balls. But what was happening here with Crawford and Spence is there was just seemed to be a lot of emotional kind of predictions, not much thought behind it. For me, when I first started, I started a channel like several years ago, but I've had my issues. I had to bounce back, so I'm going over a little over a year with this channel, and we're getting closer towards 4,000 subscribers now, right? And I feel good about that because that just tells me that people are receiving the content and appreciating it. So I just want to say thank you. But before, because I'm always rooting for the underdog, right? I would give predictions and I'd be like, look, I think this other guy is going to win, but I'm going to predict so-and-so because I'm rooting for the underdog. But I kind of stopped doing that. I will still say, deep down, I hope this guy wins, but when you look at it and you really understand what each person brings to the ring or doesn't bring to the ring and the style, then, I try to be a bit more realistic in my predictions. When David Benavidez fought Lemieux, I said I felt that, Lemieux had the puncher's chance. I said David Benavidez had been knocked down before. But when you look at it, David Benavidez should get that win. But I'm going to roll with Lemieux. I feel if Lemieux touches him, and David Benavidez will go down faster than a plate of Alabama barbecue. Not at all what happened in that fight. But obviously Lemieux he wasn't the same fighter. But I was wrong. And after that, I started saying, if I'm going to do these predictions, because I'm just having fun, but people will rip you in the comments. I said, let me just do what I know instead of rooting for the underdog, even though I have a feeling they're going to lose. But what I saw with Crawford and Spence with a lot of people is they were just because they didn't like Crawford. And it could be for the same reasons that Bob Arum struggled with Crawford because of his personality. To me, Spence is probably more likable than Crawford. He smiles a little bit more. He laughs a little bit. Seems to laugh a lot more. And all we can go off of is just the interviews. Crawford's not really like that. But now you see Crawford, right? He's on a world tour now. Crawford's doing interviews all over the place. And what's funny about it is everyone who he runs up to who picked against him, he's looking for his apologies. And I don't know. I mean, he's cool with a lot of these people, so it's probably just out of fun. But at the same time, I think deep down that stuff bothered Terence Crawford because he's that kind of person. You know what I mean? Things get to him. He tries not to let things get to him, but they get to him. But at the same time, I think he needs to I think he understands this better than all of us. Most of those people don't know a damn thing about boxing, man. They couldn't even explain to you why they were picking Earl Spence over Crawford. And if Earl Spence would have beat Crawford, they wouldn't have been able to say how Earl Spence was able to do it. Except for, he landed that shot. But no, how did he set it up? What was the game plan? What was he doing from the first round to set the traps? They can't do that. They don't understand what they're seeing in the ring. They just see two guys punching. So for me and Terence Crawford, let me tell you something. People talking about this next fight. I'm gonna tell you right now, and people already predicted Earl Spence is about to get it back in blood. What the F does that mean? And these are the same people who picked Spence to beat Crawford the first time. Spence is going to win this time because he's going to get it back in blood. What the F does that mean? Champ, why don't you tell me the changes Spence has to change and implement to give himself a better chance at being successful to do what I think is the damn impossible. And that's for him to beat Terence Crawford. Now, I've already done a video where I said what needs to happen. The only way, in my opinion, that Terence Crawford can be defeated is if you take away his damn right hand. Now, I did a video about that. And the funny thing is, like a day or two later, I see there was an interview with Boots Ennis, and he was saying that Crawford he's right-handed, but he's really a southpaw fighter. And I was like, damn, that's the same thing I said in my video. So for me, hopefully Earl Spence is paying attention to what Boots Ennis said, because Boots Ennis was spot on with what he said. My boy Mills, I'm going to do a video using the comment that my boy Mills posted. I'm not going to talk about it here. You'll see the video. He broke down some stuff on Boots Ennis and what Boots Ennis has to do and what he should not do in order for Boots to get a win against Crawford. And he kind of piggybacked on the things I said in my video. But with the content that I shared and the comment he posted, I'll tell you what, man, and the stuff that you guys are posting too, I'll tell you what, when it comes to Boots Ennis going into a fight with Crawford, Boots Ennis could pull it off. But it's just a little premature to say that, but I'm just telling you. The one person who has the best chance at upsetting the apple cart when it comes to Terence Crawford, I'm telling y'all right now, he got to tighten up on a few things because he's a little immature in that ring. But the one person, when you look at it and you lay it out on paper, who has all the qualities, is Boots Ennis. I'm telling you. But there are people who are going to disagree because they don't know ish about boxing. And I do think it helps when you've been in the ring. You know, even if you just, one sparring session is not enough. But it's enough to tell you, like, this shit is not a joke. But if you spent years sparring, and, even if you were amateur or you did a professional, but you don't have to be an amateur or professional. If you come up in a gym training and doing a lot of sparring, you can easily understand what the hell's going on and what it takes. If you spend a lot of time into doing that, and I'm one of those guys, man. There are a lot of you guys who spend a lot of time sparring and doing stuff. I had somebody try to call me out, man, and I had to post some photos and stuff. It's like, cause I don't lie, man. I would never say I was a professional boxer now, but I mean, I put it to you this way: I'm 48. About 35, I stopped hanging around the gym because I had kids from a teenager to 35. So I spent a lot of time in gyms, man. And when I look at it, I understand what the hell I'm seeing. But there's some things that I'm seeing and I can't articulate it as good as like Paulie Malignaggi. But when he's saying it, I'm seeing it. And I'm like, oh, yeah. But I just can't. I'm seeing what he's seeing, but I just can't articulate it like him. Paulie Malignaggi he's got that on lock when he breaks things down. Roy Jones too, but it's hard for me to follow him. The way he talks, it's hard for me to really follow what he's saying. Antonio Tarver is another one who's really smart. But most of these guys out here who are doing these videos and picking fighters, they don't know what the hell they're talking about. But going forward, I'm telling you, people out here picking Spence because they feel he's gonna get it back in blood. That's not a good reason for someone to want to put money on Spence to win. Even the fight being at 154, that's not a good reason to pick Spence to win. There's a whole lot of work that Derrick James has to do with Earl Spence to get Earl Spence up to speed to defeat Terence Crawford. And the one thing that if it was me, what I would focus on would be how to neutralize that damn right hand, okay, in that southpaw stance, because Terence Crawford's not going to get tired. And a good example of what to look at is when David Benavidez fought Caleb Plant. And Caleb Plant came out. Remember, he's left-handed, but he fights orthodox. And that left hand, man, jabbing, hooking, everything was the left. Left. But when he no longer had that left, what happened? It was all downhill. You know what I'm saying? So they're going to have to figure it out. Because if not, Crawford's just going to blast through Spence again. He's going to blast through everyone else. Just like Miguel Cotto did, just like De La Hoya did. You know what I mean? Just like all these fighters who, they maybe the left hand may be dominant and they fight orthodox, or the right hand is dominant and they fight southpaw. Those are the guys that create problems, man, because their opponent just can't neutralize that dominant hand, and they have problems. Remember, I've said this in other videos. I know not everybody hangs around for the whole video, but the jab is the punch that gets to the opponent the quickest. And if you're right-handed, like Crawford, fighting as a southpaw, when he's shooting that jab, he's shooting that jab with his dominant hand, and it's going to be 10 times more powerful than that damn left hand. And that's what I think Earl Spence and his team should really be focusing on. But that being said, people out here, Crawford's on his world tour, he's demanding apologies. People out here crying. People out here mad at Earl Spence because they lost money on him and Earl Spence is on vacation in Spain. People out here attacking Bud because Bud beat Earl Spence up. I understand the concerns about the car accident and Spence not looking 100%. He before he got in the ring, he did look a little different. He did, but it could just be the fatigue and being dehydrated. You know what I'm saying? Not rehydrating enough, man. Not having enough fluid around his brain. You know, your body just not gonna function. I remember training. I remember getting up, going to the gym, training for like an hour, about 2 hours, right? Trained so hard, right, that I remember I was cutting weight. I was cutting weight too. As a matter of fact, I forgot about this. I was cutting weight. I was getting ready for a boxing match. I was at Osan Air Force Base in Korea. I was getting ready for a boxing match. I had cut down from 205 pounds. I was lifting a lot of weights, right, to 160, right? So I was fighting at 160. And I remember this like yesterday, now that I'm talking about it. I remember after training, right, that I was standing up and my legs and body was shaking, like violently shaking. And the coach was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And he was like, sit down. And it's like I had no control over it. And I was like, yo, what the hell? He was like, oh, you push yourself to the limit. I was like, man, this had never happened. But what happened is I was burning off what little calories I was putting in. I was burning like probably 2-3 times that in the sessions. Then I went and I was running like, I would run for like distance, so I wasn't timing it, but I would run. It was actually like 1.5 hour runs. You know what I'm saying? I just know I used to run far, man. Up hills, down hills, then come back and hit the track, run 1.5 miles on the track, then come back down and past the dorms, go back to my room. But I remember that, and then I remember getting then hydrating. And then I had to weigh in for the fight like 2 days later, and then hydrate a little bit. And I remember getting in the ring, and I felt strong and fast. But I didn't feel as I felt good in that fight. But for the other fight where I had to go fight at Camp Humphreys, I think it was, an Army base, I had really dehydrated, and I felt like my head, like my brain was banging against my skull. I felt like my head was about to explode. And I remember a friend of mine, he worked in this place called Life Support. I could barely walk, and I was like, yo, my head, I just felt like my head was gonna explode. He's like, you're dehydrated. He was like, just get this gallon of water. He went to the store, got me a gallon of water. He was like, just drink it. And I was forcing myself to drink it. And then I laid down, and when I laid down, oh my God, that was even worse. So this was like on a Thursday. Supposed to go fight Saturday. So Friday, the coach was like, "Yeah, we'll just take it easy. Drink a lot of water, and then we'll just go up there and you just fight whatever weight division your weight is at. You'll just fight." So Saturday morning, I get up and my head's still hurting, right? Because I was trying to do a little workout, but man, my head just hurt too bad. And we were on the van riding up to, I think it was Camp Humphreys. We were riding up to the Army base, and to get there was like some roads where it was like kind of rocky. And man, that van, that bus was like going over that the gravel. Oh my God, man! And it felt like I thought I was gonna die. So we got to the gym, to the gymnasium, and they had the boxing ring, and we had to go do our weigh-ins. It was the day of the fight, and I remember my coach was like, "How you feeling?" I was like, "I think I can do it." And he looked at me. He was like, "Nah, man, he can't have you go out there like that." Remember, I was in the military. And he was like, "You mess around, go out there and get hurt or something." He was like, "It ain't worth it," because I could have gotten, we all could have gotten in trouble. That's just how the military works. I'm considered government property. Go and get banged up, knowing that there's something wrong with me. This pain in my head and dehydrated. That's just doesn't end up well for anybody. So anyway, I'm sitting there in the bleachers, man, and my other boy, he couldn't fight because he got a cut over his eye. So we're sitting there, we're both pissed off because I wanted to go and fight those Army guys, man. And then I seen the bozos who got up there by like 165 to fight, and I was like, man, I would have killed that dude, both of them. And anyway, it took me like a couple of days to get everything back together and my head to start feeling better, taking Tylenol, but I was dehydrated. So I give you that long story to say I could understand if Earl Spence had to cut a lot of weight and water weight, and I know what that does to your body. Doesn't like he was having those pain in his head like what I was having, but he just I know what it is for your body to become weak. And I just get it, man. Because I've actually gone through it, man. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what he was feeling. I don't know. I'm making an assumption here. But if he had to cut weight like what I had to cut, and he felt anything, a tenth of what I felt like 2 days before that first fight I was telling you about, where my legs and my whole body was shaking, that's not good. And I actually remember going and they were doing body fat measurement. I remember two things. I was having an EKG done, and I had a body fat measurement. And during the EKG, I was laying on the table, and the doctor was like, "Hey," he was like, "You all right?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "According to this EKG, you should be dead." And I said, "What do you mean?" He was like, "Wave your arm." So I waved my arm. He said, "There you go." He's like, "It wasn't picking up your heart rate." I was like, "What?" He was like, "Your relaxed heart rate." He's like, "It wasn't picking it up." He's like, "Do you run a lot?" I was like, "Yeah, I box and I run, So I don't know, I probably run like an hour and a half, probably hour and 45 minutes, about 5 times a week." And he was like, this is what he said. He said, "Dude, you're in effing shape." "Dude, you're in effing shape." He was like, "I've never seen that." And I was like, "Okay." So I didn't think much of it, I was just trying to get the hell out of there. And then when I had, it was during the same time frame, I went and I had my body fat measured, and my body fat was like something crazy, like 5%, 5 point something percent. And I remember it wasn't what's that called? They go and become a physical therapist, right? Was like, "Hey, your body fat's too low." I was like, "What?" They were like, "You're in shape, but it's not good for your body fat to get that low." And I was like, "Yeah, well, I don't know what to tell you," but I remember that happened. I remember that happened too. But anyway, enough of my stories. Goes back to what I was saying. Picking against Terence Crawford, especially now understanding the struggles for Earl Spence getting down in weight, even at 154. I agree with Mayweather. Spence should probably be at 160, 168. 154 may be a challenge for him, you know what I'm saying? But just understand what you're looking at when it comes to this boxing, especially if you're gonna be gambling, because you just can't be making these emotional choices, man, because that just doesn't work out just because you like someone or dislike them. That's fine to have that argument, to put money on it, and then get mad at them when they lose. That's crazy. Anyway, Terence Crawford wants his apology from everybody who went against him. Y'all keep cool. I'm in the breeze.